Alrighty, so we're going to factor quadratics, but we got some negatives. So we still have our x squared. Easy money. Go ahead and put it in any one of the boxes. -8. Go ahead and put it in the diagonal. Remember, the key to factoring is this diagonal right here that we are multiplying. So technically we have -8 times x squared. So over to the side, I like making a little factor chart, -8. X squared. I'm really just focused on the -8 though. So with negatives, I could have 1 times 8 could be a factor, but it depends which one could be negative. Is the 1 negative or is the 8 negative? I don't know at the moment. Then I have 2 times 4 can factor for 8, but I don't know if the 2 is negative or if the 4 is negative. So I have x squared. In my original, I have the -8. I have all the ways to get to -8. I'm looking for which combination can get me a +2. I think right here is going to give me +2. If I had 4 x's, again, it doesn't matter what order you go in, minus 2 x's, then that will check off those 2 x's right there. So now I'm going to go ahead and factor. X squared is easy to start. X times x. How do I get up to 4x on the top? 4 times the x that we already had. How do I get to -2x at the bottom right? -2 times the x that I already have. I'm factored. I got my base. And I got my height, x plus 4. And I have my answer. Cool. That's it. So that is one way to focus on dealing with the negatives. Here we got in the second problem, x squared, check, easy money. -9, check, easy money. Remember, the key to factoring is this diagonal. So we got -9x squared. How do we factor -9? It could be 1 and 9, but I'm not sure which one's negative. It could be 3 and 3. I can write it twice, but this one I don't really need to write twice, right? The 3 is negative on either one of those. How do I get to a +8x? I'm going to pick that first option where I would have 9x and then minus 1x. Again, it doesn't matter which box they go in. So that will give me the 8x up top. Cool, we are ready to factor. X squared is x times x. How do I get 9x? 9 times the x that I already have. How do I get -1x? -1 times the x that we already have. That's why I like doing the x squareds first. You can even check your last corner if you want. -9 comes from, well, we just did it. -1 times 9. And we have our -1 at the bottom and then our +9 at the top. So that's why we put x minus 1 and then our x plus that +9 over there on the height. Alrighty, let's keep rolling. Here in these next problems, we have double negatives. You saw in the first one we had a plus and then a minus. Here we've got a minus and a minus. We're going to do the same thing. Toss your x squared in a corner, doesn't matter where. Put the -8 on the diagonal because that diagonal is the key. So -8 x squared is the key. Factor -8. I'm going to give you a slightly different strategy here. I'm only going to list the positives, but I know that there has to be a negative. So I'm just going to wait and see where do I put the negative to get -7x. Well, I don't think the 4 and the 2 is going to get me there. I think I got to use the 8 and the 1 to get the 7. So if I did -1 and 8, that would be +7. That's not what I'm looking for. What if I did 1 and then a -8? 1x minus 8x is -7x. Cool. Now I'm ready to do the factoring. X squared in the corner is x times x. How do I get to 1x? 1 times the x I already have. How do I get to -8x? -8 times the x that I already have. And you can go ahead and check the last box, but -8 comes from 1 times -8, and we are good. I've got x minus 8 as a factor and x plus 1 as a factor. Alrighty, and let's go ahead and do one more here and see how this goes for us. Alrighty, we're going to go ahead and toss x squared in a corner. Easy, thank you. -9 on the diagonal, thank you. Go ahead and list -9x squared. We already did the factors above. Is it -1 and 9? Is it -9 and 1? Is it negative 3 and 3? I don't really need to write that again. Negative 3 and 3. So how can I get negative 2x? This one right here would be a positive 9 minus 1. That would be 8. That's not what I want. The next one would be a positive 1 minus 9, or negative 9 plus 1. That's negative 8. That's not what I want. Negative 3 and 3, that would be 0, not 2. I think this problem is a can't factor problem. Alrighty. Cool, let's go ahead and scroll on down and check out some others. You notice we have now some 2's out front, some 4's out front. The negatives are in some different spots. We got a handful of things. We got a negative, then a positive, negative, then a positive. We've got a positive and then a negative, and then we've got double negatives. So we've got a bunch of different things happening in these problems. So let me know if you got any questions. Comment, come to me, see me if you're in my class, and let's get after it. Alrighty, x squared, we can put that in a box. Positive 12, put it in a box. The key is the diagonal, 12x squared. Let's factor the 12. There's no negative in this one. Not yet, at least. So how do I get negative 7 if I don't have a negative at all? Like, this doesn't work because that would be negative 12 up top, and that's not what the problem is. The problem clearly says positive 12. So the only way to get some negatives are if we did double negative. Negative 1 times negative 12 would get me back to positive. Negative 2 times negative 6 would get me back to positive. Negative 3 times negative 4 would get me back to positive. So I think if I use negative 3x's and negative 4x's, that I will get those negative 7x's. Let's double check. Do I have x squared? Yes, I do. It is in that box right there. Do I have negative 7x's? I do. I have negative 3 there and negative 4 there, which is negative 7. So I still have my original problem, and then I have plus 12. We can see that in the corner. So I haven't really changed the problem. Now I'm about to factor. X squared is x times x. Negative 3x is negative 3 times the x you already have. Negative 4 times the x you already have. And we just double checked. We grabbed it from our factor chart, but negative 3 times negative 4 gets me that positive 12. So I've got my base, and I've got my height, and I've got my factors. All right, we jump into a little something different here. We got 2x squared, and then we have a 9. 2 times 9 is 18. Remember, the key is that diagonal. Now I just factor 18. 1 times 18, 2 times 9, 3 times 6. So check, check. How do I get negative 9? Negative 9. How do I get negative 9? I don't have any negatives. What if I doubled the negative so it went back? Doubled the negative. What if I doubled? Ooh, I think I see a way to get negative 9. Right here, if I use negative 3x and negative 6x, that gives me negative 9x. Now I can go ahead and factor. X times x is x squared, but where does the 2 go? Does the 2 go into the row, or the 2 goes into the column? Which of these x's does the 2 go into? I think 2 goes into negative 6, negative 3 times. Now I have x over here coming up to the negative 3x, and check your last box. Negative 3 times negative 3 gets me in there. So I've got x minus 3 on the bottom, or the base, 2x minus 3 on the side, or on my height. All right, let's go ahead and try another one. We got to make our own boxes for this one. We've got 4x squared. We've got negative 5. Multiply the diagonal. Check, check. Negative 20x squared. Can we factor negative 20? I'm just going to go ahead and do the positives right now and decide where to put the negative, because it clearly says I need a negative. So where can I put the negative so that I get 19? What about if I took this first 20 and then I minused 1? So what if I had 20x and then minus 1x? That would give me 19x's. Sweet, now we are ready to factor. X squared is easy, x times x. Where does the 4 go into? 4 doesn't go into -1, but 4 goes up into 20 5 times. X and -1 will match up, and 5 and -1 will match up in the end. And I have my base at the bottom, and then I have my height, x plus 5, and I have factored. Alrighty, let's go ahead and do our last one. Bunch of practice here with the negatives. They're not as easy. So we pick 4x squared in a corner. We've got -5 again. Oh, this is nice. We got -20x squared. I'm just going to factor the 20, and then we'll decide where the negative goes, because there has to be a negative. Otherwise, I could just write that factor chart twice. That's okay. Do 1 and -20. Do -1 and +20. But I'm just going to decide, where do I need the negative? I got 4x squared. I got -5 in my boxes. How can I get -8? What if I did, that doesn't work. Ooh, what if I did 2 and then -10? That will give me -8. So 2x minus 10x gives me -8x. Awesome, now I'm ready to factor. Let's go ahead and finish up. All right, x squared is x times x. What does 4 go into? 4, does it go into 2? It doesn't. Does 4 go into -10? Yeah, only with the decimal. Here's one where we're going to have to break up the 4. So 2 times 2. 2 goes into -10, -5 times. And this bottom 2 goes into 2, 1 time. So I have on my base or my bottom 2x minus 5. And on my height, I've got 2x plus 1. And I've done a bunch of factoring with negatives. There you go. Hopefully that helped. Hello, hello. Today we're going to factor some quadratics, but we got negatives today. What's a quadratic? Don't forget, a quadratic is simply an x squared. I'm going to go ahead and use that box method so we can factor, get into the parentheses, but we're going to deal with some negatives. Here we go.